So, thanks, Rupert. I just wanted to share a little bit. My question yesterday really helped for me to see that I have had a judgment about my mind, the whole mind. I've been judging it as not trustworthy or not useful or not, suspect. And I mean, what I'm getting at is, I think it's the mind that does learn and evolve and gain insight and understanding. I'm talking separately from the concept of the ego identity,
yes.
Not the separate self. Just the mind as an activity of awareness, or the mind is a mental activity, right?
Yes.
And so when we talk about insight, it's the mind that has insight, isn't it? It's the mind that, I don't want to say wakes up, because that would be the mind dissolving, but the mind does learn and reach higher levels of understanding and insight.
Yes, the way I would put it is that as the mind becomes more and more transparent to its essence, new insights appear in the mind which are a reflection of its essence. So understanding always takes place between two activities of the mind. So in a moment of understanding, as I said the other day, between the end of the joke and the beginning of the laughter, that's between two activities of the mind, the understanding takes place. So mind is not present when the understanding takes place. So when the understanding takes place, the mind has collapsed into awareness. But a mind that then rises again, rises fresh, as it were, out of awareness with new knowledge, and expresses that understanding as a new formulation. So it is the mind that is, the mind is inspired with new understanding and formulates that understanding. But the understanding to which it refers doesn't live in the mind. It lives in awareness.
Right, yeah.
I mean, you've been coming to these retreats for quite a long time now. You've noticed that the teaching evolves. And that's because my mind is continually being, as a result of our conversations and meditations and my own contemplation, my mind is continually being informed with fresh knowledge, fresh inspiration. And that's how it works for all of us. When we, in the moment of understanding, the mind, even when we understand something simple, like let's say I asked you all, what is 11 times 36? Now, some of you have already got the answer. But some of you are thinking, 11 times 36, wow. Okay, well, let's do 10 times 36. I can manage that. That's 360, and then 360 plus another 36 is 370, 300. And so we'll each take a different pathway. But for each of us, there'll be a moment when we get it. And prior to that moment, there is a line of thinking, which for some of us is very short, for others it is a little longer. But so prior to the understanding, 396, that there is a moment of understanding, and that understanding is formulated as the thought 396. So in between the question, what is 36 times 11, and the answer, obviously, while you're thinking about it, the understanding has not yet taken place. But by the time you answer 396, the understanding has already taken place. It takes place in between those two thoughts. But the mind is inspired with that understanding and formulates the answer. 396.
Are you saying the understanding comes from
that
awareness?
Which understands or stands under the mind? Yes.
So it's not the mind figuring it out?
No, the mind engages a process of thinking, but that thinking, understanding never takes place while you're engaged in a process of thinking. The process of thinking has to come to an end before the understanding can take place. Yes? So it's when it's in between the process of thinking and the formulation of the answer that the understanding takes place. The joke has to end before we understand it. And by the time we start laughing, the understanding has already taken place. So the understanding takes place between the end of the joke and the beginning of the laughter. Well, the joke is a series of thoughts, the laughter is a series of sensations, two activities of mind. The understanding takes place in between those two activities of mind. But what is there between two activities of the mind? Consciousness. So at the end of the... scientists often report that they think very deeply about a certain subject and then they stop thinking about it. They give up thinking about it. And the answer comes from an unexpected direction, out of the blue. That's the common word for from awareness. From an unknown direction, that is, from a direction that isn't known by the mind, knowledge that is not known by the mind. And it's not just spiritual insight, any form of understanding. That's why humour is an expression of, and that's why we love humour, actually. It's because when we are listening to a joke, a good storyteller will eke out the joke for as long as possible. For 5 minutes, our minds are being wound up into a state of tension. And then the punchline comes, and there is that relaxation. In that relaxation, the mind plunges, the tension of the mind plunges into awareness. And as a result of that relaxation, the side effect of that plunge into awareness is this release of tension in the body called laughter. So it's not just spiritual understanding, but any kind of the understanding of a joke, the understanding of a mathematical equation, the understanding of an idea. They all involve this. The understanding of all this takes place at the end of the process of reasoning. It's actually why. It's what a scientist is really in love with. What a scientist loves. The scientist. It's not knowledge. By knowledge, I mean knowledge formulated by the mind. What the scientist loves is understanding. It is the experience of understanding. That is ananda, that is joy, that is what motivates a scientist. The experience of beauty is the same experience, but arrived at through perception rather than thought. The experience of love is the same experience, but arrived at through feeling rather than thought or perception. So it's actually what drives even a conventional scientist's desire for knowledge is really this experience of understanding. That's what a scientist really loves, is to understand. They don't really mind what they understand, they just want to understand. Because understanding is always the same experience. Just like love is always the same experience. Whatever we love, love is always the same experience. We don't really mind who or what we love as long as we feel love. Beauty, the experience of beauty is always the same experience. We don't want to always experience the same landscape or the same mountain or the same symphony. But what we do want to experience over and over again is the experience of beauty, because that is the experience of our true nature. That is a glimpse of our true nature.